Do not adjust your TV sets. I am not wearing black. Let's get into it. Hi everybody, my name is Jimmy and welcome to Jimmy Does Knitting. This is my knitting podcast where I talk about whatever I want. Usually it's a topic. Today we're going to talk about a regular sort of podcast format. It's because last time I cast on 4 sweaters, and so I wanted to follow up on one of them, this one, and then talk about the 2 others that I cast on and where those are and what's going to go on with that. So I am Jimmy Does Knitting on Ravelry, Instagram, also on Discord. I don't know if anybody's on Discord. And yeah, I like to knit. We have fun. I like sweaters. That's what's happening. Just as a disclaimer sort of thing, I don't really have like spring, summer knitting plans. My knitting's fairly similar all year round, so you will see a lot more sweaters. I think I'm going to finish up the 2 sweaters I have on my needles and then maybe just stash dive until about mid-May, June-ish, and then see what's happening with that. To be determined. Let's see. And then I'm not really quite sure. But yeah, no summer stuff. We'll see where things go. I'm supposed to have a project that's coming in that's like deadline and urgent, but I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know. Regardless, let's get started. And let's get started with this sweater. So this sweater is my COS Boyfriend Sweater, my yin yoga sweater. It's whatever I want to call it. It's amazing. It is this lovely, it's a Marl from Studio Donegal. I've forgotten the band for it. So it's like, let me get the yarn. I'll be right back. We're back. We have the yarn, but let's back up even further. This sweater is a recreation of a COS sweater that my boyfriend has that both of us love a lot. It is this sweater right here. It's sort of this like tweedy-ish, it's all plastic, which is unfortunate, but it's like a really slouchy boyfriend sweater, which I really like. And I think one of the goals is like, when I find a good yarn, I'm going to recreate this sweater. And so I have, and I've made a whole video about it. So if you want more details and anything with that, go check that out. I think that's coming out later in April or in May, because when it comes out, it's going to have a pattern attached to it. I think we're going to try writing this up and just selling it for $1. It is not going to be tech edited. It's not going to be tested. It's just going to be one size. But I think that might be a way. I'm trying things out, so like that's what's happening with that. Anyway, it's just like a really standard drop shoulder sweater. It actually flares out a little bit at the shoulders, which I think is really cool. It has a folded collar and then just some sleeves. It's knit in pieces because it's cheaper to do that when you're machining something. You knit the front, the back. The sleeves were knit flat and then also seamed. So what I have done is done something similar. I knit it in pieces for the front and the back. I joined and then I put the collar on, but then I did the sleeves top down just because the seam for the sleeve itself doesn't really add any like structural integrity. There's no like design reason to, like I'm not doing intarsia or anything. So like I didn't do that. I just knit it in the round, also because it's quicker and I like knitting the sleeves in the round. So that's kind of what happened. It's the same look and feel. I just did decreases on the inside instead. So this is a really simple sweater. I think it knit up in less than 2 weeks. It took like another week to dry, but it's pretty easy to make. I used the yarn, which I was talking about, and I forgot. It's from Studio Donegal. It is this Marl. It's their soft. What's it called? It's their soft wool. It's in this Marl color that's brown, not black. It's color 9590. I'd put this at an Aran weight yarn, and it says 4.5 millimeter needles, US 7. But I don't know. Anyway, I didn't get gauged for this. but I really like this yarn. I think Studio Donegal has really, really nice yarns. I know they use a lot of their stuff for weaving, but if they have an update on their website, which they did for this, then go buy them out. It's like real like wool, you know? I mean, this is merino wool, but like it just feels like wool, you know? Not some commercial like light and fluffy spun. Like this is really nice. So it's super comfortable to wear. It's really good. A couple things that I did is I focused on the details of this. I'm gonna put this down so I stop pointing at the camera. I focused on the details of this sweater to make it special. So like the bind off here was like a slope bind off. I don't know if that really makes much of a difference if you seam a garment, but there's like a detail here in general where the decreases go 2 stitches before the collar. So it has this nice like edge, and then the same thing happens, which you can't really see, but like there's the stitches that are increased to make the shoulder go like this. I also did the same 2 stitches with that. I didn't do it with the under of the sleeve because I figured it would be too wide. It would be like they'd be here and I want them close together. And then I did like Italian bind offs, cast on, that sort of thing. So it has a nice rolled hem. It's just the little things don't take too much, if any, time to do, more than usual. And because this knit up so fast, I was like, let's at least make that stuff nice. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward sweater. I don't have much to say about it. Oh, one thing. I did swatch, and my swatches lie to me. I don't know if anybody else has this. I do swatch. I swatch frequently because I think my tension has really loosened up lately, and something's happening. So I like to get a good general idea about like how I go compared to the pattern, or like how my gauge acts, so I can pick an appropriate size. I'm usually in between sizes, so I normally go down now, but we'll see. But this one was a bit weird because it got smaller. So the swatch had 14 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters, and then the actual garment had 15, which I thought was a little interesting because they're both flat work back and forth. It's not like I knit a flat swatch and then work the sweater in and around. So like it was the same technique, same yarn, everything, same needles, but it got tighter, which is not something that I really expected. Maybe I have to pay more attention to that. So it is, it's supposed to be like a 46-inch circumference, and I'm a 48-inch circumference, and I'm a 46. So that was the only thing that was a little bit different about it. The sleeves are the length that they needed to be. The body, I knit a little bit shorter than what was the original one, just because I thought it was too long, personally. So it has grown some as well. That's another thing about swatching in for sweaters, is like if you think that your sweater length for the sleeves and the body are going to be the same, the answer is absolutely not. I always knit my sleeves a little bit shorter than I want to have them, and same thing with the body. And it really varies depending on the stitch and the yarn and all this stuff, like how much it grows. But I really, I stand by that. So like your row gauge is not going to be exactly like it is in the finish when you're washing and blocking it. So a little PSA for all of you over there. But I mean, it lengthened nicely, and I assume that this is going to grow. Once it relaxes and it forms to our bodies, I think it's going to grow a little bit, which is fine, because I think the bigger the better with this. And it has like heavy yarn, like it's an Aran white yarn. It's a 2-ply as well, but it's also quite sticky. It's a merino, but it's like a loosely spun 2-ply, so I wouldn't say it's rustic, but like it's not. Maybe I should show you this. It's not. It's a loosely spun merino, and it's woolen spun, so it's not like it's super tight twist with like 5 plies or anything. So there is that, and I love this. I used 6 balls, but like the 6th ball was literally this cuff. Just like 2 inches of ribbing, like 5 centimeters of ribbing, and I had to go into another ball. So I had bought 7 of these skeins and just needed 6 for it, which was really nice. but now I have basically 2 full of these, so I need to figure something out to make with this because I love this yarn. I would love to make something else with this. Anyway, if you want more information, go check out the video for this sweater, and it's not up yet, but there will be more, and you can like and subscribe or whatever you do and just like catch it later. So this is my boyfriend COS Recreation sweater. Next, we need to have a talk. So one of the sweaters that I cast on is down here. It's this wind whistles sweater, and as you can see, it's not on the needles anymore. And let's discuss this. So I wanted a brioche sweater. I've been like jonesing for a brioche sweater, like hardcore, like it makes me wet. I want a brioche sweater, like I'm into it. And I remember from like the Les Garcons YouTube channel that like they had one come out with a Shibui collab like 2 years ago or something like that. And then this was it. And I wanted to knit it. And I thought I would try a brioche sweater out, and I would knit it with Holst and just like a mohair, because that's essentially what the thing was. It called for a light fingering, which is what Holst is, and then a merino, and then I found some alpaca at a alpaca Setasuri. I'll get it for you soon, but I found some alpaca shit. And I was like, perfect, we'll hold this together. It will make a beautiful thing. So there are a couple things with this. Is one, my brioche gauge is way off, and I don't know how to like correct it. It's supposed to be 19 stitches for 4 inches, and I'm at like 14 on the recommended needles, which was a 3.25. No, 3.5. So I went down to a 3.25. Because I also tried a 3mm, and it was just too tight, and like I didn't like working with it. So we just went with the 3.25. I started with size B2, even though I'm probably size B3, B4. And I mean, in general, this would fit and it would be all right. I also think that the fabric's not bad. If we look at the back of this, like this is really fun to knit. I was craving some brioche because I wanted the rhythm of it, and I think the fabric's okay. I'm not like in love with the yarn combination, partially because I was like, oh, I need a mohair substitute, and so let's explore this alpaca. But what I really think that I'm discovering is that I just need to go up like a yarn size instead of the mohair substitute a lot of times. So like, instead of a fingering plus mohair, I would do in a sport weight just because of the gauge, although I think I could probably, no, because I'm so loose with my stuff, I'm going to put it at a sport weight. But I think most people could get away with like a DK, a light DK or something for this sweater. So, as I was saying, I just don't think that the yarn combination was working for me either, and that I would probably use a sport weight for this. But it's like an okay fabric, right? Like it's not bad, but I don't think it's also really doing anything for me. And so let's go over the yarn, and then I will tell you why I stopped working on this. Part of this was part of my stash busting stuff. So I used this cone of Holst that I had. This is the color black. It's their Supersoft. I use this a lot. I talk about it a decent amount. There's nothing tremendously exciting I have to say about this. This is my 3rd cone of it, and I was going to hold it with this alpaca. And that's nice. This is really affordable. But the alpaca is not. This is Setasuri that I got in a yarn store that was closing. It's by Lana Grossa. It's just like a suri instead of like mohair. But look at these. Can you tell that these are 2 different dye lots? So I have 2 different dye lots, which I thought that if I was holding it with like a basic black yarn, that it would sort of not be so apparent. And I never got that far to explore, because as you can see, this little fluff right here is like maybe 5 grams of something, and so this was almost an entire ball of the Sari. The Sari, I had 4 total balls, and that would mean that I would need to buy like 3 or 4 more, and I looked these up online and they were like 8-9 euros plus shipping, and I didn't want to invest that much more into a project that was relatively an experiment. I sort of did the B2 size thinking that it would kind of fit me, but like it might be oversized, it might be tight, I'm not sure because my gauge is so far off. If you have any tips on how to make your brioche gauge more on par with everybody else's, let me know. I also considered like moving to another pattern. I know Brooklyn Tweed had like a brioche pattern, and same thing with Julia Wilkins, and they're great brioche patterns, go check them out. But I checked the gauge for that, and they were both on DK, and it was, I think, 19 or 20-ish stitches. So similar to this with a similar weight of yarn. And so the problem is me. It's not the pattern with a weird gauge. It's definitely me. So I'm going to knit this again. I really liked it. This was a continuous shoulder thing. So you knit flat a little bit to get some like short rows in the back. But then you do continuous shoulder shaping. So here, if we look on the very like tops right here, these are the shoulder areas right here. And so you essentially do top down on, like, it's almost like a satin sleeve. It's a really cool construction. I really like it. I have fluff in my nose, I'm sorry. I really like it, and I'm still going to knit this. Now, I did jump the gun with this. I was going to do this as part of like June Pride knitting. I wanted to knit something from LGBT designer, and then this was going to be my sweater make for it, and then I was also going to get their yarn, but I would have to import their yarn. They live in Canada. I'd have to send it to America with my parents and then like meet up my parents in Europe, and the yarn would still cost like, I think like 130 euros, and I just don't have the budget for that. So we're going to use a different yarn when we do this. So this is going to come back in late May, early June, and I will use a sport weight yarn for this, and I will do something a little bit more affordable, a little bit more local, I think. It's still going to be black because it's me, but yeah, so I guess that's the update with this. This is done off the needles, so we don't have this on our needles, we don't have this on our needles. We have the merino tweed one still on the needles, and then we have our next project for you. So let me go and get that. This one's a bit of an explainer, so hold with me. It has a lot to do with yarn and yarn that I want to talk about, and that's what this type of podcast is about. So let's get into it. I was very curious about Wool Dreamers. Now, I've used their Manchelope, which is from the Manchego sheep. It's an unspun. It comes in these big plates. It's wonderful to work with. Really, really like it. Didn't know too much about the business or anything. And then I also have seen the Mila cardigan by Sari Nordlund, and it's beautiful, and I knew I had to knit it. But I wanted the sweater, not the cardigan, because I'm not a cardigan girl. So I did that, and I noticed that her sweater was knit in, the cardigan was knit in the La Riencoda, which is a merino from Wool Dreamers, and it's their DK weight. Now, they say DK weight. I think it's probably more of a light worsted, but we're going to go for it. And I wanted to do some of their yarn. I was really intrigued by their yarn called Mota, which is the same yarnage per weight and meter. This is what it looks like. Somebody yelled at me for not putting the yarn right up to the screen. This is the label. I'd say it's a DK light worsted. I'm not entirely sure what sheep are in this. They say local, but it doesn't matter. I like it. I really enjoy the yarn. So let's talk about Wool Dreamers, and then we'll talk about this yarn specifically. Wool Dreamers is one of those companies that I really want to support because I think they're doing really good things. They're really working with like Spanish wool. So they're based in Mota del Cuervo, and they are like this old, like 3 or 4 generations spinning mill. They used to do some sort of blankets or something for like ranchers, and then because ranchers aren't really like a thing anymore, they were like going under. So a brother-in-law who used to work like at Amazon and knows how to like excuse me, how to do like, you know, fancy business things and was really talented, came back to the farm to help the main guy, who's Rafael, and like who's just like super passionate and like a hard worker and like seems like a really nice guy, into making the farm into something else. And then they talked to somebody, and you know, it started this whole let's make knitting yarn journey. They then like revamped everything. So their big thing is they're doing it very much of that like business principles and startups and stuff, and actually they're doing it well, and I agree with their stuff. So they're really talking about using Spanish wool specifically, and especially rare breeds and like wool that would normally get like thrown away, burned, whatever, something that doesn't normally have any like value in the market, and turning it into spinning wool. So that's why I don't really know the sheep content of this, but they have Spanish merinos for their one that Sari used. They have a couple of breed studies. They have this one in particular, which I think is very beautiful. It is the, what is it? I have notes here. Rioja Mallorquina yarn, and it's like a reddish sheep, but the yarn that they spin from it is like this, like an oat, sort of like light beigey neutral color, but with like this tinge of red in it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Not really my color, but like I kind of want it anyway, just because I think it's wonderful. But they have a couple of yarn brands, and they're really like doing things sustainably and all of this good stuff, and they're marketing, packaging, everything beautiful. The Mota I wanted specifically because it does something for me that's like nearly sexual. It is like grown and produced and spun and like dyed and everything in the same city, which is like unheard of these days. It's not something that happens. Even like, you know, like American made yarns or whatever are like trucked halfway across the country all the time. So this is really like a special yarn in the yarn that I would like to support. And I think it's a company that's doing really good things with Spanish sheep in particular, and like helping revive the industry, and the yarn quality is very good. It's super nice. So I got 7 of these Mota yarns. I'll probably only use like 5 or 6, but I got 7. It came in, well, a big box, and in the box it has this tote bag, which I've been using for other things, so it's all wrinkly. And then it came with some fiber, which I don't know what to do with, and a picture of the sheep. Look at the sheep. So the sheep's name is Arancha, and I don't know what type of sheep it is, so I don't know what type of fiber it is. I'm assuming merino. Somebody who can recognize sheep, please tell me. And yeah, so I have this like beautiful fiber. I got a bag, and like it was really special. I had some interactions with them on Instagram. It's a wonderful place. Like, these people are doing good things. They're really helping out like biodiversity, cultural stuff, everything. Anyway, and they have beautiful yarn. So let me tell you about the yarn. So the yarn is lost to time. I have no idea what I did with it. But the yarn is sort of like knitting for olive. Like, I've only used their heavy merino, but it has that dryness to it, you know, if you know what I'm talking about. So it's like a dry, it's not as fine as merino, but it's also quite soft. It's a woolen spun, but it still has a little bit of like plump to it. It's a really nice yarn. It's not, you know, like, I wouldn't even say it's like rustic. It's just like knitting for olive if it wasn't merino, if that makes sense. And it's great. So I did 2 swatches with it, one with the recommended needles, and then I went down a size and I got gauge. And I did that to make my Mila cardigan, which is over there. So I'm going to go get it. So this is my Mila. I'm a cable whore. I really am. I love black cables. I'm really into my knitting lately. Like, it's so nice. Like, I really enjoy a black cable. And so I decided to make the Mila sweater. I have the back here. This is a shoulder, and then I started another shoulder yesterday. I'm only a couple rows into it. That's why I have all of these like cords and stuff on it. Too many. But let's look at this pattern. Can you see this? Is this blowing out enough? It is a bit stiff because I put it at a smaller gauge, so it's quite dense. But I think that in the end, it will be a really lovely sweater. I saw this pattern and I was like, I need this in my life, and I wanted to try it with the yarn. I looked it up on Ravelry. Just like, I always like to see if a new yarn, and if I'm using it for like texture or cable, how it performs. And so I look at projects on Ravelry using that yarn to see what I want. Typically with like, you want texture to pop, you want more plies. You want, 4-ply, 5-ply, that sort of thing, and you get like a nice round plump cable. But you can also get like woolen spun yarns like this that are a bit like, they show texture well. They might not be like a plumpy cable, but it shows like a beautiful cable. And that's really all I'm after. And I discussed this when I was making my almond out of the Gilead, is that the cables don't like pop, but it has really good cable definition. Like, I can see the cables, I know where they're going, like, it's clear, but they're not like as expressive perhaps as, I don't know, if we used a Fonte or like a Guernsey yarn or something. So this is my Mila Pullover, and then this is the back. I'm hoping this blows out so you can see this. So even on the inside, I'm making a mess over here, girl. So even on the inside, it's beautiful, but I'm going on the outside. So we're knitting on this just kind of as we're doing it. I've never done a Sari Nordlund pattern. I'm really like not a, I would say like trendy knitter, and lately I've been doing like the Crea Bea and Sari Nordlund and like Le Garcons and whatever. I still have a couple designs on my needles, but like in general, like I don't usually go after these big brands, but like these sweaters are really like scratching an itch for me that I do not have to design, and I can potentially learn new things with. So, I mean, this is a top-down, drop shoulder, all over cable sweater. There's not really much special to discuss about it, except for maybe the yarn and the fact that it's beautiful and I love it and it's going to be wonderful. So yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say about that. I'm really enjoying it. The cabling's not difficult at all. I just kind of like go for it, sit down, do my thing. It's nice. It's not complicated. This has been about like a ball and a little bit of another one. So yeah, we'll see. I'm very curious about the collar, because like her collar looked quite large in her like photos and stuff, and I can't tell if it's like because she's a woman or not, because I also have a really small head and I like collars a little bit tighter. The way she knit it was really quite deep, so I'm assuming it comes up quite a bit on her. So we'll see how the collar pickup is for that. But in general, I'm sticking to the pattern. I think it works okay. I'm knitting the 3rd size, and so like the yoke depth is about all right, and I'm assuming the collar will be okay based on the pictures that I've seen. Of course, I'm going to knit the sleeves and body longer, but I think it should be okay if I just like follow the instructions with that. If it changes, we'll get there when we get there. I mean, it is all over cable, so it is going to take a little bit of time, but that's fine. So yeah, this is my last project that I have to show you for this episode. And then we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'll probably try some stash diving, stash busting, until I buy yarn again for the wind whistles, so I'll probably have about like month and a half of just finishing my projects and going into the stash and seeing whatever happens. Look, your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
It's sunny today and I'm in a good mood, and I hope that you are too. I am going to go, I have some errands to run. I'm feeling active. I'm feeling like I have to do things. So I'm going to go do those now. And yeah, little yoga update if anybody's interested before we conclude is this week is the first week of April that I'm filming this. So this is going to come out way later. But I started my new yoga journey at a new studio, and yeah, I'm feeling some kind of way about it. Like, I am doing the thing where like I'm just getting up and going to yoga, which is nice. And it's like I don't have to think about it. I'm not hemming and hawing. I really can just like go and practice. But the yoga is only like an hour long, and then it's also not as active of yoga as I was doing before. But then I was also only doing yoga like 2 or 3 times a week, like active practices. So I guess it balances out. I'm not really quite sure. Jury's out. I have a 3-month subscription, so we will get into a rhythm and stuff. But I needed some change in my life, and yoga and how I produce these videos or my presence online, that sort of thing. Those are the main things I have going on at the moment. So those were the things that needed to change to hopefully help me progress to something. I'm happy you guys stayed with me if you've been here for this long. I will catch you, I think it's going to be this video that comes out next where I release this pattern and I show you how I made this, and then who knows what. So stay tuned. I will talk to you all later. Oh, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Also be kind to others. Like, just give people grace, including yourself. I think if you can give yourself a little bit of grace, then you learn how to do it with others. Other than that, I'm going to head out. I'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.